it's Connecting with Jennifer Filzen. I am Jennifer Filzen, and today I have Douglas Coleman, who is another show person. He and I have a lot in common. We have the music business as our background, and I've learned a lot from him. I've been on his show a couple of times, and we've had a blast together. So, welcome, Douglas. Yay!
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Nice to be back. Nice to talk to you. Thank you for inviting me to be on
Of
your show.
Of course, of course. This was born of COVID, right? I am such a social animal and I can't help but want
Oh,
to connect with people. And I don't know about your area, but I just saw on the news that Monterey County, California, we're going to be going back into strict rules. We're going to have our masks on whenever we go inside because of the COVID outbreaks and the variants, which is breaking my heart, but what do you do, right? So, how are things in your area?
well, I'm in Las Vegas, and exactly the same thing happened yesterday. They put the mask mandate back on for indoor dining, and I believe for the casinos. One thing about people who live in Vegas, we don't gamble. Typically,
Right?
the gambling is the tourists. We just enjoy the cheap food. But I believe that the mask mandate is going to, well, it's for all indoor dining. So any dining in the casino, yes, you'd have to wear a mask. I assume you're going to have to wear a mask walking
Wow.
through the casinos. And yeah, I think it's coming back. Yeah, I
Yeah.
wasn't too happy seeing that. But,
Yeah, we're all just getting
maybe,
our taste of freedom, aren't we? And and
yeah.
we have our freedom and it's very short-lived and it's like, oh, but I'm actually going to be out in Las Vegas in November for the SEMA Apex show. It's a big car industry show. So perhaps we'll get to have
Oh,
dinner together.
yeah, that would be good. I'm all for
Yeah, right? I love to do the non-Vegas things
that.
in Vegas because I'm not a gambler either.
Sure.
But let's talk about you a little bit. So, okay, you have so much that makes you special and unique. I don't know how long you want to take to fit it all in, but seriously, you are amazing. And I would love for you to tell
Thank you.
everybody what makes Douglas Coleman special and unique. So that's shorthand for tell us your life story, darling.
Well, okay, let's see. Life story. I started out knowing exactly what I wanted to do in my life. And at 18, I moved to New York City from Boston and was accepted to go to the American Academy of Dramatic Art. And I went there and I also pursued music at the same time because I loved all performing arts. For me, it was all the same. Getting up on stage and acting or singing on stage, Broadway, theater, whatever, playing in a band, it was all the same to me. And while I was at the school, I answered an ad in a newspaper. This was long before the internet, so we did things like newspaper ads. And they were looking for a lead singer who could play the piano. So I applied, I auditioned, and I hit it off. All of us hit it off. I went with the band. We started playing around little clubs in New York City. The band started to take off, and I couldn't do both the school full time and the band.
Right?
So the band won out, and I dropped out of the school. And then about a year and a half into the band, my father got very sick, and I had to return home.
Mm.
I left the band, went back to Boston, and stayed with my father until he passed away a few months after I got back home.
Mm.
And then at that point, it was a that was a crossroads for me. Ideally, I should have just went back to New York City and tried to pick up where I left off. But my mother had some other ideas about where I should go with my life, and I ended up going to work for 20 years in a corporate job, which I didn't like, which had nothing to do with my passion, but it was good money. And it took me 20 years to get back to, what was the Beatles song? Get back to where you once belonged.
Right.
And it took me 20 years to get back to where I once belonged. Well, by the time I started over again, the internet had come along, digital had come along, and the music industry was nothing like I remembered it. And I had to start over again, but I was competing against the 18-year-old, and I was 43 when I started over again. So I had a lot of
Wow.
catching up to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then music took me to starting a podcast, and COVID, like we just talked about at the beginning, took me to starting my VE show, Video Edition. And that's where we are right now. Did I leave anything out?
Amazing. I love
I
it.
think
I
I
love
covered it
it.
all.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh. And what a journey. And what a journey. So get back to where you once belonged. Yeah, right? And it feels
Right.
good, doesn't it? It's almost like when you have a passion and circumstances take that passion away from you. When you decide to revisit that, it's a renewed, almost more dedicated fervor of going after that which you love. So that's kind of exciting, right?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like I was losing my soul. And I felt like
Mm,
if I didn't get out of that job, it was like the movie Joe versus the Volcano. There's that scene at the beginning where it's all
right?
gray and they're sitting in that office. You've seen that, right?
Uh-huh.
And yeah, and I just felt like that. I just felt like my soul was getting zapped away little by little, hour by hour, day by day. And I had to get back to it before I got too old and I couldn't
Yeah.
do it anymore. And even starting at 43 years old was no picnic, particularly having to learn the whole world of digital music and
Right.
all of that was all brand new for me.
Mm.
So it was a lot of catching up to do. I took 3 years off. Well, I quit my job. I sold my house. I moved from Boston to Las Vegas. Kind of just set up shop in Las Vegas. I didn't buy anything. I just got, I literally got a used store it to put my stuff in. And I got
Oh
a
yeah.
P.O. box and a driver's license and a bank account. Yeah, that was it
Nice.
to establish myself in Las Vegas. And then from there, I took off and I went to Thailand. And I just needed to get out of the country. I needed to change the entire scenario that was in front of my face. So I applied and I got a job teaching English at a university in the middle of rural Thailand. And I said, you know what, I
Wow.
gotta be good for a change. So I went there for 3 years, taught English, and wrote 25 to 30 songs. I mean, it just came pouring out while I was there. I just couldn't stop writing. I mean, I was
Oh, that
teaching in
is
the
so
daytime,
cool. Yeah.
and yeah, and the songs were just pouring out. So I had a little tape recorder, a little 4-track recorder, and I just kind of got the basics of the songs down so I didn't forget them. Wrote all the lyrics out. Then when I got back to Las Vegas, I set up a recording studio and proceeded to record them. And they got a couple of the songs caught the interest of Stuart Epps, who's a very famous producer in England. He was one of Elton John's earliest producers back in the late 60s, early 70s. And he also worked with Robbie Williams, and, Oasis, and Bad Company, and Twisted Sister, a whole bunch of different bands. And he liked my songs and he offered to produce them. So he's produced 4. And then, as you know, once you got your songs done, then what do you do with them? You
Yeah,
got to
right?
market them, right?
Yeah, then you got to market
Yeah.
them. Yep. Yep. And hope that somebody
Yeah.
hears it.
So I started down that road, and that's what led me to podcasting because I hired somebody to help market the songs, and what she was doing was booking me on podcasts, music podcasts,
Nice.
to start promoting my music. And I got on some of
Right.
these podcasts, and some were really good, and the hosts were really nice people, and I enjoyed talking to them. And
Uh-huh.
some just sucked. I mean, just these people have no business doing podcasts. I
Oh
thought, what in the world are
no.
you doing? You're just wasting our time like this. But, you know, I mean, the audio quality was awful. They didn't know how to speak. It was terrible.
Oh,
And so I thought, you know what? Maybe that's something I can do. Maybe I'll start a podcast to promote my music as well as to promote other people's music, other indie artists, because there were certainly enough of them out. And then one thing led to another, and the podcast just grew. I started booking filmmakers and authors and stand-up comics and life coaches. Lots of life coaches out there. Yeah, and started booking
there's a
them
whole
there.
crop of life
Yeah,
coaches. Yeah, it's like somebody spread the seeds and then put the water down on the ground and upsprung a lot of life coaches, which is pretty remarkable. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So then
Wow.
that's
So
where
now
we're at. Yeah,
I just love your story. Gosh, our stories are so similar. Oh my gosh,
they
right?
are. They are. Yeah.
I was doing my college scholarship, vocal performance, learning opera. Of course, when are you going to make a pop album with an opera background, right? But but I was supposed to audition for the Santa Fe Opera and I got scared and I was supposed to go do this big, huge audition, but it was bigger than me and my self-worth and my money were not up for that opportunity. And I was regretful of missing out on that opportunity for so many years. And I went ahead and did my life. And then when I was going through my divorce, that was when I had the desire to start writing. And, the social media was new. So I found a guitarist and my producer on Craigslist before Craigslist got weird. And
Mm.
then the social media platform of the day in 2007 that was the dominant was MySpace, and Facebook and
Hey,
Twitter were
my
just
state. Yeah.
yeah, we're just Facebook and Twitter were just babies you know in the fold of things. So I started marketing the music, and it's funny because yes, I did not make it commercially. I did qualify for the Grammys, and I still am collecting royalty checks off of my one hit wonder. However, that was not something I could ever pay my bills with. It was just one of those ego stroking, hey, I did it kind of deals, but not enough of a living off of it. But you're
No,
right,
but
like
you did it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and here you are a successful podcaster, and here I am a successful owner of a marketing agency, all thanks to our music. Isn't that fun?
Yeah, that is kind of a roundabout way to get there, but whatever works, I guess.
Right, right. So now let's look at all the
Yeah.
people that you serve in your life. By the way, I don't know if you know this, and for those people who are new to watching us, the reason why I have these questions is these questions actually mirror what I ask my clients when we are doing their SEO content for their websites. So whenever we have a marketing client, we go through the same interview. What makes you special and unique? Who do you serve? What is your why? And what advice do you have? Or for them, what are your superpowers, right? And it's just always fun because, in a marketing aspect, when I ask who is your target demographic, who do you serve, they think in the form of their customers, right? Who do they serve? Who's their target audience? But in this, I like to also open it up personally. You have the people that you serve professionally, but then you have the people in your life who you love and you serve them. So, Douglas, who do you serve in your life, my darling?
Personally,
Yeah.
personally, yeah. Okay. Well, uh, obviously my wife. That would
Yep.
have to be number one.
Happy wife, happy
And
life, right?
yeah, exactly. We've been married for 15 years, and
Fantastic.
quite
Happy
happily.
anniversary. Hmm.
Thank you. My dog, And they have two of
Mhm.
them. And if I didn't serve them, they would not be happy. And I think myself,
Yeah,
I have to serve
yeah,
myself. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Go after those
that's
passions, or
about
you
it.
be on your deathbed
Yeah,
waiting, wondering why you didn't do it, right? So you got to do it.
yeah, yeah. I know this is going to sound a little bit selfish, but I don't have a personal desire to serve mankind. I mean, that's very noble for people to do. But
Mhm.
on a professional level, I'm serving the whole world, hopefully
Yeah,
providing some kind of quality entertainment for them to enjoy.
right.
And it takes a lot of work to put together the two shows that I do.
Yes.
And once I do that, I put it out there, and if people enjoy it and they like it, then that's great. But that's my contribution. When I'm gone, my shows will still be there, and then that's what I'm going to leave behind. That's my legacy. So
That is so
any more
cool.
serving than that, and I'm just going to be tired.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I mean, no, and it's not selfish. We all have our gifts that we bring to the world. I know that my gift or my goal is to create a ripple effect of joy that touches millions of people. If that's by educating them or entertaining them or singing to them or doing marketing to them for them or, reaching them with my books, whatever it is that I'm doing to touch them and help them be better, whatever that looks like for them, better business owners, um, you know, go beyond their comfort zones, whatever, right? And it's rewarding. And you don't even know who you're touching, especially with podcasting. We know that we're serving the world, but who really hears us? And sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes I question, does anyone even pay attention? And then I'll have someone say, you know what? I really love your show. I really love your energy. I'm like, oh, wow, someone is paying attention. That's so cool.
Well, I think that's a great segue, so I can shamelessly plug my new book
Please
called
do.
"Don't Do a Podcast." Yeah, I don't have a copy to hold up because it's an ebook only. I'm a little bit embarrassed to even call it a book because it's only 24 pages long, so it's really like a pamphlet.
Oh, it's
Um,
fine. A
it,
book is a book.
yeah,
It's
it
all good.
wasn't. It wasn't really worth printing that out. So I don't have a copy, but it's on Amazon and it's on my website. Uh, I think I sent it to you. Did you read it?
I did. I did. It was about audio
Okay.
quality.
That was one chapter, yeah. But there was that sort of came out of I don't know, my frustration, I guess, with the podcast market because what I did was I took a comparison of all of the kind of content creations that are out there, the major filmmaking, writing books, authors, music creation, and podcast. And what I found out that podcasting was at the very bottom of the pile in terms of commitment and in terms of uh, what's the word I'm looking for?
Longevity?
Qualifications?
Ah, yes.
No,
Qualifications. Yes.
qualifications necessary. Right.
Right.
Absolutely at the bottom of the pile. According to listennotes.com, there are currently 2.4 million registered podcasts out there. Now, that number just shocked the hell out of me. I thought 2.4 million, and that's not
Wow.
even counting the basement people. Those are the actual registered ones, the ones that are
Wow.
on Apple, the ones that are on iHeart. And I thought, my God, 2.4 million. All right. And to my knowledge, there have been two major deals given to podcasters out of 2.4 million. Now, I could be wrong. There could be other ones. But the only ones I've ever read about was Joe Rogan, obviously, was the top of the
Very
pile.
much so. Yes. A legend in that.
$100 million. Okay. And there was another one that just got signed by Amazon Prime for $80 million. And I don't remember the name of the podcast, but one of the hosts is Jason Bateman, who's a very famous
Oh,
person already.
right,
Yeah. So those are the only two I know of. The others are in obscurity. And one of the things that I mentioned in the book was that most of the really successful podcasts that are out there, the people that are the hosts of them were famous for something else before they even started their podcast. And they just
right,
brought their audience over with them. But for somebody like me who's kind of starting from zero, it's a tough road to climb. It really is.
right, right. And it's interesting too, because when I first started my music back in 2007, I was starting podcast and doing what I could to promote my music, and then I let it go away, and then I don't even know what happened to it. Like, could I go back to that? I don't know. I haven't even checked those channels, but quite frankly, I prefer the video format for myself. Because when I started doing it back in 2007 through 2009, it was strictly audio. And now that we have such
Right.
wonderful technology, the computers are so much further evolved. I mean, woof, I mean, even today, I'm on a brand new iMac, the 24-inch, and I chose yellow, which reminds me of gold. And it feels very gold. And I feel very rich having a gold computer. And I'm noticing that the camera quality on this Mac compared to my other Mac is night and day. It's like, wow, I don't even need all of the fancy lighting that I've needed prior. So it's like, wow, okay, all right. But you're right, the technology sometimes has to catch up with our passions. So do you think
Right.
that podcasting will hit a golden era where the technology is finally caught up, and those that are tenacious and consistent in their persistence will eventually rise to the top and become more known? Do you think that's a possibility in the future of podcasting?
That's a two-part question. Let me answer it in two parts.
Okay.
Uh, Number one, I don't think it's the technology that's the issue. The technology is there. It's the people's ability that are the problem. And this again I addressed in the book. There are no prerequisites for podcasting. In the book, I talk about that if you want to make a film, although it's much easier, much cheaper now with digital imaging, it's still a pretty daunting task. You've got to have a crew, you've got to have places and people and things, not to mention a good script. Then you've got to have editing capability. All of that stuff is skill that people need before they should even start to make a film. Okay. So by its inherent nature, it has built-in gatekeepers that sort
Mm,
of keep people away from doing it because it's a little bit daunting. Same thing with authors. I mean, although it's still done in the same way, the distribution has changed because of self-publishing, indie publishing. But you do have to still sit down and write it out. Okay. Now I've had pushback from authors on this one because they said, yeah, the people are just uploading all kinds of garbage to Kindle, with grammatical errors and spelling errors, and it's just horrible. I said, yeah, okay, but still, nobody's going to just sit down and knock out an 80,000, 90,000 word novel just because they can. I think that sort of limits certain people from doing it. But
yeah.
anyways, that's an argument for another show. And then music, obviously, one does need some talent, at least hopefully, to record something. And then you've got to have somebody who knows how to edit and mix and
Mm,
master.
mm,
It'd be nice to have somebody playing an instrument. Okay, so all of those have these sort of inherent built-in gatekeepers. With
mm.
podcasting, basically, do you have a computer? Yeah. Can you talk?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, you're a podcaster. And that's it. And
Wow.
unfortunately, that's what I see when I go out there and listen to some of these podcasts. is to just, well, yeah, some of them suffer tremendously from poor audio quality. They don't even bother to get a microphone. They just use the built-in on the laptop. But it's also, nobody has this concept that you need to be able to speak well. You need to be able to communicate. You need to
Yeah.
be able to carry on a conversation. The art of conversation. In my book, I think I said the art of conversation has gone from Monet to mud pie. And people don't realize that there is a skill in broadcasting. And
Yes.
most people who are doing podcasts are not broadcasters. And there's the difference for me. And that's
Yeah.
why I'm a little frustrated about the whole endeavor and wrote the book. The book is a humorous rant about all of this and just about all of my frustrations. But
Yeah. So when it comes to your why, we've established that you've written this book, you've pursued your passions, you have taken a circuitous course like I have to get where you are now. What is your
right.
why now? What drives you?
um, you mean why do I do all of this? Why do I do these shows? Well, number
Yeah.
one, I love talking to people. I love hosting shows. I think I do it reasonably well. It gives me an opportunity to network with people and create content at the same time because that's really all I'm doing with the show. Every person that comes on my show is another content. And I'm hoping that with enough of them built up, that it'll just take my show. How do they phrase it? Organic growth.
Mm.
Organic growth means what? Growing all by itself without any marketing. Is that the definition of that?
Well, without any paid marketing. Yes, that's organic growth without paying for it in
Paid
the form of
marketing.
advertising. Yes.
Oh, I see.
But let's
So
face
in
it,
other
there's
words, you
always
don't
there's
hire.
always a cost. There's always a
Oh, of
cost to
course.
our marketing,
Yeah,
isn't there? Yeah.
yeah, of course. There is. Okay, so that's basically the why. Number one, I love talking to people. I've met the most incredible people on my show. Some very famous people, some not so famous people, but just really all wonderful people. I've done, my producer and I, we counted it up, 730 shows between the
Wow.
video and audio podcasts in the last 6 years. So a lot of shows. I've only pulled the plug on one person. I think that's pretty good. And
Wow.
this guy was a wacko. He was just, he tried to take over the show. John, when we were in the process of talking to this guy, or him talking to us, John said he's trying to hijack the show. And I was like, yeah, I'm getting that impression. And so John said, let's pull the plug. And we did. We hung up the
Whoa.
phone. But one guy,
Wow.
out of 700, everybody else has been perfectly charming.
That's amazing. My goodness, that's a quite an accomplishment. And did you say that you've had 700 plus shows in 6 years?
In 6 years, yeah.
Wow, that's a lot. That's fantastic. Good for you.
500 audio podcasts and 237 video shows. I think what's more
Wow.
amazing is the 237 video shows have only been in 1 year. We started this last August.
Whoa.
Yeah, so
Wow. That's
there's a
that's
lot more
almost every
production to
day.
do in the video.
Yeah.
Oh, it has been
Wow.
every day. Yeah, yeah.
Congratulations. That's huge. That's a
Thank
that's a
you.
Herculean
Thank
task that you
you.
guys have taken on. Wow.
Yeah, and it's just the three of
So
us. We can
so
do all
for
this.
anybody who wants to be where you are now, besides buying your book, and let's repeat that. What's the name of the book?
Don't do a podcast.
Don't do a podcast. by Douglas Coleman. I love that. That just spells it right out. Don't do a podcast from the podcaster himself. That's so funny.
Yeah.
But what advice do you have for anybody like us who has had their passion taken away by various circumstances? What would you say to those people who desperately want to get back to where they once belonged?
Okay. Well, first of all, let me preface something by saying that the title is meant to be funny, although there is a serious message in there. The point of the book is not to discourage people from doing a podcast, but it's simply a little bit of a warning
Sure.
that number one, the market is so saturated. And number two, that if you're going to do it, then take it seriously. Because there's
Mm,
people out there that are really trying, that have real talent in broadcasting, and they're just getting overwhelmed with all of these people who are sort of basement podcasters who don't really care. They don't care if they make any money. They don't care if anybody's listening. Uh, they just do it because they like talking. And, that's all right. But imagine if the other three, the filmmakers, the musicians, and the authors, had the same attitude.
mm.
Well, I'm just going to write a book because, I just want to write it, but I don't care if it's any good or not. Or you put out a song with that attitude, okay?
Uh-huh.
Or you put out a film with that attitude. It
Hmm.
would be it would be awful. But yet people sort of accept that there's 2.4 million podcasts out there, that a lot of them are just crap, but nobody cares.
Right.
And that's what's very discouraging to me. Okay, so advice. My advice, first of all, is if the passion is something that gets you out of bed in the morning, that it's something that you just simply have to do, that you don't care about the money. Obviously, you would like to make money at it, okay? But
Hmm.
if you had money in the bank and you didn't have to worry about money, you'd still do it anyway.
Yes.
All right. The one thing I would tell people not to do is don't do it because you think you're going to make money. Absolutely
Right.
the wrong reason.
Correct.
Okay. If you want just to make money, then go work on Wall Street because there is no money to be had in this business unless you're very, very lucky. And it's not even about talent. It's not even about quality. It's about meeting the right people at the right time and being in the right place and persistence. There's a whole mess of things that have to come together.
Yes.
Um, because there's some mind-blowing people that are making a lot of money creating content that I think is just absolute garbage. And then there's some wonderful stuff out there that's not making a nickel. And that's nothing new. That's as old as the industry itself. I mean, I'm not just the podcast industry, but film industry, music industry. I mean, there was wonderful musicians out there that have never been. It's a little easier for them now because we have the internet. But find a way to do it. If
Mm.
it's really your passion and it's really what you want to do, and it motivates you, it drives you, makes you feel alive, then
Yeah.
find a way to do it.
Just do it.
But be
Yeah.
forewarned. But be forewarned that there are a bazillion other people out there on the internet trying to do the exact same thing you are doing.
Mm.
It's a little bit of a different game. Uh, I take that back. It's the same game. It's a different world. So just realize what you're going to get yourself into,
Yeah.
and you're going to get frustrated, and you're going to hear a lot of no's, and maybe you'll hear one yes after 1,000 no's. But keep going,
Right.
keep doing it, and just do it because you want to do it and you love to do it. And Maybe with any luck, you'll make it.
It's so true. Actually making me think of Vincent van Gogh. Vincent van Gogh is one of the most revered artists, yet he was technically a
Yeah,
failure when he was alive, but he kept doing it. And look at his beautiful works of art. And now, they did that beautiful animated movie of him with all the artists getting together and painting him through, it was like a painted movie. It was stunning. And
I haven't
songs have
seen
been
it.
sung about him by Don McLean and just, all these different things. It's like, wow, but in his lifetime, he felt like he didn't have anything. And so you just never know, again, who you're going to touch, do you? Because we're all doing what we're passionate about, and we've got that consistent persistence, getting out of bed, doing our thing, and we hope and we pray, and
Yeah,
sometimes we stop because you're right, it does not sustain itself. It is a financial hole, right?
yeah,
After some time, I
yeah,
had to give up my
absolutely.
music because
Mm.
my music was sucking all of my money away. But at the same time, I was establishing credibility as a marketer. So, isn't it interesting how the original pursuit and that radical action that you're taking might actually turn into a gift that you never expected? So, yeah.
Well, that's true. And actually, on the plus side to podcasting compared to the other media, this one is probably the cheapest one to do. Music takes a
True.
good investment. Filmmaking takes a big investment, and writing doesn't take much of it. So those two are at the lower end of initial monetary investment.
Writing
So
is
there's
awesome
that.
in its affordability. It's so true. I mean, heck, I made an entire
Yeah,
agency off of writing. It's true. It's like who needs to be a
yeah,
starving artist when you can support yourself commercially? Yeah, yeah. And it
true.
doesn't take a
Yeah,
lot. There is software that I run, but it's nothing compared to what film people do. Oof,
yeah,
right.
or music. I mean, music, you've got all kinds of equipment and recording, and it's much more expensive.
Oh
Mm.
yeah.
Studio time if you don't have a studio. Mm.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh, Douglas, you are amazing. So, when people want to find you and hear your music and all that jazz. I'm writing it all down. Tell us how to get a hold of you.
DouglasColemanShow.com. Everything is there. All your Douglas Coleman needs. It can be found. Can be found right there on that website.
I love it. I love it. All of your Douglas Coleman needs. That's awesome. He's a one-stop shop for the original Douglas Coleman. Oh, that's so cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So forgive me, is it the DouglasColemanShow.com or DouglasColemanShow.com?
No, just Douglas Coleman. No B.
Gotcha. Okay.
COLE.
DouglasColemanShow.com. Coleman. Yes. Yes. And
MAN.
if people wanted to get a hold of you, are they going to do it through your website, or is there an email that you would like for people to contact you at, or do you want them to find you on social media? How do you want people to reach out to you?
Anyway, I'm on social media, but if you want to email, the email is douglascolemanshow@gmail.com.
Love it.
And that'll get you through to my producer, John Morgan. I don't want to give out my personal one
That's okay.
because I've
You don't
got
have to.
enough people on there. But
You
that
don't
one
want
will
your
get you
wife
through to my
getting upset.
producer.
N- Don't upset the wife.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
I
yep,
gotta,
I'm on Facebook and
okay. Facebook. Okay, good.
Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter, although we don't use Twitter very much anymore.
Yeah,
It's still
right.
there.
I will look all those up and include them in the show links. I do have to tell you a funny story that happened pretty recently
Okay.
with giving out personal
Yeah.
information. So, my husband and I belong to a real estate investment community, and uh, the epicenter of it is a group called JWB, Jacksonville Wealth Builders. So we've been clients of theirs since 2012. We own 3 rental properties. I grew up in Jacksonville, Florida, so I'm very familiar with the market.
Oh,
And by doing all that, I just feel super comfortable, and I just love these people. JWB is just a really great group of people who just under promise, over deliver, nothing but wonderful things. And this isn't a plug; they're not paying me to say it. It's just I'm that much of a fan. So I got onto their show. My husband and I were on their Property of the Week show, yeah, just in recent weeks. So it was late June. And we were in Atlanta because I was there for work teaching a marketing class. And then our next step was to go to Jacksonville and visit family because I go back and visit family all the time. So I'm on the show. It's a Facebook Live event. And I'm like, look, everybody on this call, we're part of a community. I think we need to connect. And we live in Monterey, California. And for those of you who are in the Bay Area, let's all get together. Here's my email, jenniferfilzen@gmail.com. Here's my cell number, 408-833-9868. Let's connect. You guys are friends online. Let's all get together. Let's do something and let's share ideas, etc. So I'm doing this publicly, right? I get a text from one of the guys who's a community member, Drew Barnhill, and he got on the show late, so he heard that we were going to be going to Florida, so he thought that we were in Florida. And he said, "Oh, I was just in Florida. It's too bad I missed you." I said, "Oh, well, we're in Atlanta." He goes, "I live in Atlanta." And I said, "No, no." He said, "Well, I live in Atlanta." I said, "Oh, we're in Atlanta." And he goes, "Well, actually, I live in Woodstock." And I said, "We're going to Woodstock tomorrow morning. Do you want to get together?" Sure. So would I have done this without my wonderful husband with me for protection? Probably not. But because I had my husband, and because this is a safe community, we ended up making a new friend. And guess what? We're going to be going to Jacksonville next month in August to visit family, and he's going to come down from Atlanta area and come out and hang out with us. So it's fun how when we make a connection and we are vulnerable, it allows us to make some wonderful memories and have some new friends in our lives. Isn't that fun?
well, I'm glad that one had a happy ending because I wasn't sure which way that story was going to go. But
A very happy ending. And I got a chance to reconnect with old friends from high school. I mean, Atlanta and Jacksonville are only 6-hour drive apart. So I was
mm,
wonderfully delightfully surprised, I should say, that I had so many people that I knew in that area. And as soon as they saw me on Facebook that I was in town, it was like, "You're here. Let's get together." I mean, I reconnected with people I hadn't seen in 30 years. And so it was just a lot of
oh, that's
fun. But
great. Mm.
again, it was safe because I had husband with me. And even one old classmate, he's like, "Well, I told my wife that we're going to get together." And she was like, "Who is this person?" He says, "Don't worry, her husband's with her. It's okay." Just cracks me up. But no, you're right. When we love people, we love to connect, don't we? It's great.
Oh, absolutely. It's absolutely great.
Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed getting to know Douglas Coleman. I hope you will go check him out at douglascolemanshow.com and check out his various podcasts. You will probably see me on one or two of them. But truly, Douglas, you are a gem, and I'm thrilled that we got a chance to connect. And thank you so very much for being on Connecting with Jennifer Filzen. I love you, brother.
Oh, I love you too. Thank you so much for having me on. Always lovely to talk to you.
Right on. All right, let's do it again soon. All right, you have a beautiful evening. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much. See you later. Bye.